something of a hidden gem for fans of offbeat humor and outrageous storytelling. If you've never seen this movie before, or maybe just heard about it in passing, you're going to want to stick around. And if you're visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and join us for more deep dives into cult classics, iconic hits, and everything in between. In this video, we're not just going to tell you what The Breaks is. We're going to unpack it from every angle. We'll take a look at the story, the characters, the performances, and why this film stands out in the late 90s comedy scene. I'll walk you through the plot in a fun and engaging way without spoiling too much. And I'll also give you my personal take on how well the story holds up today. Whether you're a first-time viewer or a long-time fan, there's something here for everyone. We'll also break down all the behind-the-scenes elements that went into making this movie what it is. We'll explore the pre-production phase, how this movie was conceived, who was behind the camera, and what kind of vision they had in mind. We'll talk about the filming process, including the unique locations used, the challenges the crew faced, and how it all came together on screen. We won't stop there. We're also diving into the post-production work, including editing, sound design, and how the final cut shaped the overall vibe of the movie. Music plays a big part in The Breaks, so we'll talk about the soundtrack too, who created it, what styles and genres it pulls from, and how it matches the energy of the film. If you love movies with a strong musical pulse, you'll definitely want to hear about this part. Then we'll move into the technical department and discuss things like cinematography, lighting, camera work, and overall visual style. It's a unique-looking film for its time, and has its own quirky flair that makes it worth talking about. We'll also get into the financial side of things, how much the film cost to make, what the budget looked like, and whether it was a hit or miss at the box office. Was it a sleeper success? Did it fly under the radar? We'll give you the full scoop. And of course, one of the most important parts of any movie is the cast. We'll talk about the actors who brought these characters to life, how they performed, what roles they played, and how their chemistry helped shape the movie's tone. We'll highlight the main star, supporting cast, and even a few surprise appearances that might catch you off guard. Every character in The Breaks adds something to the story, and we'll go through who did what and how well they did it. Finally, we'll wrap up with some cool and quirky fact about the movie, things you might not know, moments that became iconic, and behind-the-scenes stories that make watching film even more enjoyable. This isn't just about watching a movie. It's about experiencing all the layers that went into making it something special. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this full breakdown of The Breaks from 1999. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll either be ready to rewatch it with fresh eyes or excited to check it out for the very first time. Let's jump into the world of The Breaks. The Breaks is the kind of movie where the plot isn't just a vehicle to tell a story. It's more like a roller coaster ride with no brakes, swerving wildly through a series of outrageous misadventures. It follows a loosely structured day-in-the-life format, which on the surface might seem simple, but underneath, it's a chaotic swirl of social satire, physical comedy, and non-stop identity confusion. The story centers on Derek King, a white guy who talks like he grew up on the streets of South Central, dresses in hip-hop fashion, and genuinely believes he's part of black culture because he was raised in a predominantly black neighborhood. From the first frame, the film sets up Derek as someone who exists in a strange cultural limbo, too white to be taken seriously by his neighbors, too embedded in the culture to fit in anywhere else. The movie kicks off with Derek waking up to what he thinks is a normal morning. But normal doesn't last long in The Breaks. After getting into a fight with his girlfriend, who finally kicks him out, Derek is left homeless, jobless, and clueless. And this is where the plot really begins. Derek sets out on a mission, although mission might be too strong a word, to get his life back on track. But instead of making any progress, he ends up falling into one bizarre situation after another. The narrative unfolds almost like a chain of misadventures stitched together by a single thread. Derek's inability to recognize how out of touch he is with the reality around him. Rather than following traditional three-act structure with rising action, climax, and resolution, the film plays with the idea of episodic storytelling. Each new encounter Derek has is like a short sketch, and the movie piles these sketches on top of each other in rapid succession. He gets chased by gang members. He tries to borrow money from shady acquaintances. He stumbles into a courtroom. He even ends up in a random street sermon. These events feel exaggerated, sometimes even cartoonish, but they're all part of the fabric of Derek's warped world. One of the film's most entertaining narrative quirks is its use of escalating absurdity. What starts as a small problem, a guy looking for a place to sleep, turns into a day-long urban odyssey with wild twists at every corner. Derek gets beat up, arrested, humiliated, and talked down to repeatedly, but never loses his cocky confidence. The tension and stakes keep building, not because of a dramatic plot twist, but because of how many ridiculous complications Derek brings upon himself. The more he tries to fit in and prove himself, the more obvious it becomes that he doesn't fully understand the environment he's trying to navigate. The turning points aren't marked by emotional revelations or tragic backstories. Instead, they're comedically driven shifts into chaos. Like when Derek tries to help someone out, but ends up being blamed for something he didn't do, or when he thinks he's having a breakthrough moment, only for things to spiral into physical comedy and mistaken identity. These moments serve not to push him forward as a character, but to deepen the audience's understanding of just how lost he really is. Thematically, the movie dances around the subject of identity in a very tongue-in-cheek way. Derek doesn't just appropriate black culture. He lives inside it, convinced that his upbringing gives him a pass to act the way he does. The film never lectures about this, but it cleverly pokes holes in his assumptions. Nearly every character he meets calls him out on his behavior, but he's too deep in denial to care. This ongoing conflict between self-perception and reality is what gives the story its edge. It's not a morality tale, but it is a satire, and it knows exactly where to aim its punches. By the time the film reaches its final act, Derek's world is completely unraveling. He's managed to irritate or offend nearly everyone he knows, and the consequences of his behavior come crashing down all at once. The climax isn't a heroic triumph or a tearful revelation. It's more like a chaotic group therapy session with shouting, slapstick, and complete confusion. And yet, somehow, everything gets wrapped up in a way that feels strangely satisfying. Not because Derek has changed or grown, but because the ride has come full circle in the most ridiculous way possible. There's also a surreal, almost dreamlike quality to the narrative at times. Certain scenes feel disconnected from logic, as if the movie is bending reality to match Derek's distorted sense of self. A mime shows up and somehow becomes part of the story. A courtroom scene devolves into an absurd parody of justice. Conversations take strange turns, and supporting characters seem to exist in their own comedic bubble. The film doesn't follow the rules of realism, and that's part of its charm. It embraces the chaos and lets the narrative be as unpredictable as Derek himself. At its core, the movie is a day-long spiral of a man who thinks he knows exactly who he is, but keeps getting slammed by a world that knows better. The story isn't about where he's going or whether he learns anything. It's about the absurdity of his journey, the characters who collide with him along the way, and the sheer comedic momentum that never lets up. With every encounter and every misguided decision, the film builds its own rhythm, one that's less about plot development and more about cultural commentary served with a heavy dose of ridiculous fun. So while the breaks might not follow a typical plot structure, its wild, nonlinear, and episodic narrative creates something more energetic, unexpected, and undeniably funny. It doesn't try to teach lessons. It just wants to spin you through a world of misadventures and let you laugh at the chaos. And in that madness, the story finds its strange, unforgettable voice. Character development in the breaks doesn't play by the usual rules, and that's what makes it so entertaining. This is a movie where the protagonist goes on a personal journey, learns valuable lessons, and emerges a changed person by the end. Instead, it flips that idea on its head and gives us Derek King, a walking, talking contradiction who charges through life with zero self-awareness and the kind of misplaced confidence that could power a small city. Derek is not your typical movie lead. He's not heroic, he's not wise, and he definitely isn't self-reflective. What he is, though, is fascinating. He's a parody of identity confusion, a cultural chameleon who thinks he's mastered the code, but is constantly reminded he's got it all wrong. Raised in a black neighborhood, Derek has taken on a language, style, swagger, and worldview of surroundings, but he's missing something critical: perspective. He walks, talks, and acts like he believes he's part of the community, but his behavior reveals just how out of sync he is. Derek thinks he's blending in, but everyone else sees right through him. His urban accent sounds forced, his posturing is exaggerated, and his attempt at street smarts usually get him in trouble. But what makes him compelling is that he never breaks character. No matter how many times he's knocked down, humiliated, or called out, he just keeps going, same attitude, same voice, same swagger. And that's where the depth comes in. Under all the surface comedy, Derek is stuck. He's performing a version of himself that he's convinced is real, and no amount of external reality seems to shake that belief. He's not growing, but his lack of growth reveals everything we need to know about him. He's a symbol of what happens when someone confuses proximity with understanding, imitation with authenticity. The brilliance of the character lies in how other people respond to him. Derek isn't just a character in a vacuum. He's a spark that sets off a chain reaction of raised eyebrows, frustrated sighs, and hilarious pushback. Every supporting character in the film, no matter how minor, plays an important role in bouncing Derek's distorted sense of self back at him. These characters don't exist to be transformed. They exist to test, challenge, and expose Derek's absurdity. Take his girlfriend, for example. Her decision to kick him out is the inciting event, and it's done with the exasperation of someone who's clearly been through this before. She doesn't try to argue or reason with him. She's already past that. Her reaction tells us this isn't Derek's first disaster of a day. This is a pattern, and everyone in his life is tired of it. Then there are the people Derek meets on his wandering adventure. Each encounter is like a mini-stage play with its own tone and rhythm. A gangster sees through Derek's tough guy act and decides to toy with him. A local preacher tries to drop some wisdom, only for Derek to misunderstand every word. A slick-talking lawyer sees Derek's desperation and uses it for his own amusement. Even a mime, with no words at all, somehow manages to highlight how out of place Derek is. These aren't just comedic set pieces. They're carefully constructed reactions to one central figure spinning out of control. The supporting characters are sharp, vivid, and exaggerated in a way that matches the film's tone. They don't need deep backstories or emotional arcs because they exist to reflect the chaos Derek brings with him. Their purpose is to add layers to the world Derek moves through and to subtly or not so subtly challenge his assumptions at every turn. Despite the heightened comedy and surreal edge, there's a strong current of social commentary running underneath. Derek isn't just a comic figure. He's a commentary on performative identity. He's the guy who thinks he gets it because he's been around it long enough. He talks like he belongs, but he doesn't listen. He dresses the part, but he misses the meaning. The characters around him, especially the black characters, often respond with a mix of amusement, annoyance, and weary tolerance. They're not villains, and they're not saints. They're just regular people deal with someone who constantly trips over himself trying to prove something that nobody asked for. And yet, they rarely explode at him. Instead, they shake their heads, give him side eyes, or simply walk away. That restraint, that grounded response, adds to the film's comedic tension. It's the world being perfectly aware, while the main character remains blind. Even when Derek seems like he might finally get it, when he's caught in the middle of some confrontation, or when someone calls him out directly, he snaps back into his delusion moments later. This refusal to change is what fuels the comedy. The audience knows he's wrong. The characters know he's wrong. Only Derek doesn't get the memo. His lack of traditional arc isn't lazy writing. It's intentional. It's a satire of the kind of person who's convinced they're woke, down, or in the know, even while they're creating chaos with every move. The movie uses character development not as a path toward transformation, but as a funhouse mirror. It shows us exaggerated versions of real dynamics, real misunderstandings, and real identity crises, all wrapped in hilarious scenarios. By the end of the film, Derek is basically in the same place he started. Confused, confident, and completely convinced that he made it through the day like a hero. The characters around him are exasperated but unsurprised. There's no sweeping finale or redemption arc. Just a sense that tomorrow will probably look a lot like today. That's the beauty of it. The film uses its characters to create a world that's bursting with life, full of tension and contradiction, and completely resistant to cliché. Every character, no matter how outrageous, serves a purpose. They shape the story not by changing themselves, but by exposing the one person who refuses to change. In that refusal, in that loop of stubborn confidence, Derek becomes a character you can't look away from. Not because he evolves, but because he doesn't. And in this world of exaggerated personalities and explosive reactions, that makes him the funniest and most frustrating person on screen. The performances and the breaks are the heart and engine of the entire film. If the actors didn't throw themselves into their roles with complete abandon, the movie would fall apart under the weight of its own absurdity. But instead, every actor leans in hard, and the result is a kind of high-voltage ensemble performance that turns a loosely structured comedy into a tightly wound, chaotic ride. The actors don't just play characters. They become extensions of the movie's world, each one a live wire sparking off of Mitch Mullany's central performance as Derek King. Mullany doesn't just perform. He inhabits Derek, this delusional, culturally confused, overly confident white guy who's convinced that because he grew up in a black neighborhood, he's fully assimilated. From the moment he opens his mouth, you know exactly what kind of person Derek is. Mullany nails the voice, the forced urban dialect, the swaggering cadence, the borrowed bravado. But it's not just the voice. It's in the way he moves, the exaggerated gestures, the slouched posture that screams cool, the way he nods at everyone like he's about to drop the hottest mixtape of the decade. Mullany doesn't play Derek as a caricature, though he absolutely is one. He plays him with a sincerity that's so strong, it becomes hilarious. He truly believes in the role he's performing within the story's universe, and it's that straight-faced commitment that makes the comedy sing. What makes Mullany's performance really stand out is that he doesn't play Derek as intentionally foolish or malicious. He's not a villain. He's not even a trickster. He's a guy who is so deep into his own identity performance that he can't see the disconnect between who he thinks he is and how others perceive him. Mullany balances that delusion with a weird sort of charm. Derek is annoying, yes. He never shuts up, always says the wrong thing, and keeps tripping over his own ego. But Mullany keeps him likable enough that you don't want him to leave the screen. You want to see what mess he walks into next. And he does it all with complete physicality. Exaggerated reactions, sudden shifts in tone, unexpected bursts of energy. Every twitch and stumble becomes part of the character's rhythm. Now, while Mullany is the lead and the gravitational force of the movie, the film wouldn't work without the strength of its supporting cast, and every single one of them understands the assignment. Each actor delivers their lines with sharp comedic timing, bold delivery, and a strong sense of place within Derek's chaotic orbit. Carl Anthony Payne, too, who plays Derek's friend and reluctant sidekick, delivers one of the most grounded and quietly hilarious performances in the movie. He's the audience's point of view, the guy who's seen it all before and can barely contain his disbelief that Derek is still out here, still talking, still messing everything up. Payne gives every look and side-eye a perfect dose of comedic exhaustion. He's not overacting. He's underplaying in just the right way, which makes the contrast with Derek's volume even funnier. Their dynamic feels real, lived in, and totally dysfunctional. Loretta Devine, who only appears briefly, makes an impression like she always does. She brings a natural warmth that cuts through the noise, but she also has a bite to her performance. In just a few lines, she delivers a mix of patience, wisdom, and thinly veiled, "I've had enough of your nonsense" energy. She represents a kind of moral center in the middle of a story that's spinning in every direction. Her presence grounds the film just enough to remind the audience that this isn't just cartoonish comedy. These are real people reacting to a real problem named Derek. George Clinton, yes, Parliament Funkadelic George Clinton, delivers a scene-stealing turn as the neighborhood preacher, and it is as gloriously ridiculous as it sounds. He thunders through his sermon with the weight of a man who has seen all types walk through his doors, and he gives Derek a verbal beatdown disguised as a gospel message. It's a performance that's both larger than life and oddly sincere. Clinton isn't playing it for laughs, and that's what makes it funny. He gives it the full preacher treatment, and that contrast between his fire and brimstone delivery and Derek's cluelessness makes the scene unforgettable. Even the one-off characters and cameos are given the same attention. Every actor, no matter how minor their role, plays their character like they've been waiting for this moment. There's a commitment across the board that elevates the entire production. The gangsters don't play cartoon villains. They're intense, slick, and scarily calm. The street hustlers are quick-witted, fast-talking, and unpredictable. The cop who keeps showing up like a comedic reckoning has the perfect deadpan delivery. Even the mime, yes, there's a mime, gets one of the film's most surreal moments, and it somehow works because the actor playing him takes it completely seriously. There's also something electric about how the cast bounces off one another. The chemistry is chaotic but controlled, like everyone's improvising within a carefully planned storm. No one tries to upstage anyone else, but everyone knows how to hold their space and bring their unique tone to the scene. The rhythm of the film depends on that cast-wide cooperation. They create a world that feels bizarre, exaggerated, but somehow internally consistent. They all exist in the same reality, even if that reality is a little cracked, and that shared understanding keeps the energy flowing. None of these performances are aiming for dramatic realism, but they still bring a strange believability to the film's universe. That's the trick. The characters may be loud, absurd, or completely outlandish, but the actors play them with such conviction that you never doubt them. You don't need backstory or exposition. You just believe in the moment. You believe this preacher would scream like that. You believe this gang leader would toy with Derek instead of taking him seriously. You believe every sigh, every insult, every sideways glance. It's exaggerated behavior, but it feels earned within the movie's offbeat logic. The cast of the breaks doesn't just support the lead. They build the world, elevate the tone, and drive the momentum. They take a film that could have easily collapsed into chaos and instead create a symphony of mismatched characters, each adding something bizarre and brilliant to the mix. It's a showcase of comedy through character, and every actor, from the biggest roles to the blink-and-you-miss-it cameos, brings something unforgettable to the screen. The direction of the breaks doesn't just guide the story, it defines its entire personality. Eric Meza, in the director's chair, takes what could have been a run-of-the-mill fish-out-of-water comedy and injects it with turbocharged style, rhythm, and flair. He doesn't simply tell the story of Derek trying to fit into a world he thinks he belongs to. He turns that story into a living, breathing, bouncing, unpredictable visual mixtape that refuses to sit still for even a moment. Meza knows that tone is everything, and he chooses a tone that's brash, unapologetically chaotic, and consistently playful. This isn't just a comedy. It's a kinetic collage of exaggerated urban culture, self-parody, and identity crisis, stitched together with a visual style that feels more like a wild party than a traditional film. Meza brings his music video roots into film like a badge of honor. Every scene feels like it's playing to a beat, not just musically but emotionally. The pacing is relentless. There are no lulls, no slow burns, no drawn-out moments of introspection. The film flows like a rap battle, where every line has to land and every moment has to punch. There's a rhythm in the dialogue, a beat in the edits, and even the transitions are cut like they're riding a DJ's turntable. You don't just watch the breaks, you bounce with it. The direction doesn't just guide you through scenes, it pulls you into them head first. Visually, Meza makes strong, expressive choices that emphasize Derek's ridiculous but strangely sincere journey. He often isolates Derek in the frame, centering him in shots to highlight how off-kilter he is in every situation. Whether at a block party, a convenience store, or a chaotic living room, Derek is treated like he's in the middle of a spotlight, because in his head, he absolutely is. Meza knows the joke is that Derek thinks he's a star of an urban legend, and the direction plays right into that delusion. The world is constantly reacting to him like he's absurd, but the camera gives him the drama and attention of a leading man. This contrast between cinematic treatment and real-world rejection is where a lot of comedy comes from, and it's crafted with intention. The set designs are an extension of the direction's commitment to excess. Everything is big, bold, and loud, from the graffiti cover walls to the absurd costumes and props. Meza treats the environment like a character in itself. Rooms are cluttered with pop culture references. Characters' wardrobes scream for attention, and street scenes are populated with performers who all feel like they're on their own stage. The world is exaggerated, surreal, almost like a live-action cartoon, and Meza embraces that completely. Nothing is grounded, and that's exactly the point. One of the cleverest tricks Meza pulls as a director is the use of irony. So much of the breaks is built on characters taking themselves seriously while the world around them laughs, and Meza captures that with a sly visual style. He lets scenes play out with exaggerated sincerity, Derek preaching to a gang member or confidently strutting down the street, while adding elements that clearly mock the moment, like music that undercuts the drama or background characters reacting in disbelief. The juxtaposition creates a layered kind of humor that's both slapstick and smart. Meza doesn't have to say, "This is ridiculous." He lets the visuals do the talking. And speaking of visuals, the direction leans into genre mixing with confidence. One scene might feel like a parody of a gangster film, the next like a spoof of a romantic drama, and the next like an over-the-top church revival. Meza doesn't just shift genres. He crashes them together, sometimes within a single scene. He uses lighting changes, musical cues, camera angles, and costume choices to move fluidly between moods. It's chaotic, yes, but never confusing. It's carefully designed chaos, like a director throwing paint on a canvas, but knowing exactly where every splash will land. Even the comedic timing in the film owes a lot to the direction. Meza understands how to use a camera to tell a joke, zooming in on a character's blank expression, holding a shot just a second longer than expected, or cutting away right as a punchline hits. These choices aren't written in the script. They're visual instincts. And Meza nails them again and again. Whether the mind-breaking character, a gangster breaking into a dance, or Derek trying way too hard to be cool, the laughs often come not just from what is said or done, but from how it's framed, cut, and presented. The climax of the film is a directorial crescendo. Everything that's been chaotic and fast-paced suddenly reaches a boiling point. Instead of slowing down to deliver a moral or dramatic resolution, Meza doubles down on absurdity. The final scenes are packed with cameos, throwbacks to earlier gags, unexpected reversals, and all-out comic mayhem. It's not just a finale. It's a celebration of everything the film has been building toward. Identity confusion, community dynamics, and the unrelenting pursuit of belonging, all presented through a lens of total cinematic exaggeration. The director isn't interested in wrapping things up neatly. He wants to send you out laughing, shaking your head, and maybe even wondering if Derek learned anything at all. What really sets Meza's direction apart is how he balances tone with subtext. Underneath all the absurdity is a very real commentary about race, culture, and self-perception. Derek is a white man raised in a black community, trying to live out a persona that isn't truly his, and Meza doesn't shy away from that tension. He handles it not with heavy drama, but with sharp, knowing comedy. He uses direction to highlight the absurdity of Derek's situation without mocking the community around him. The joke is always on Derek, never on the culture he's trying to appropriate. That's a tightrope to walk, and Meza walks it with remarkable skill. In the end, the direction of the breaks is the glue that holds its madness together. Without Meza's confident hand behind the camera, this film could have spiraled into incoherence, but instead it thrives. It's a whirlwind of bold choices, fearless tone-shifting, visual comedy, and unrelenting energy. The movie doesn't ask permission to be weird, loud, or messy. It fully commits, and the director is the one driving that commitment. Meza doesn't just direct the breaks. He conducts it like a mixtape symphony of street absurdity and cultural satire. And somehow, against all odds, it works beautifully. The cinematography in the breaks isn't just a passive observer capturing events. It's an energetic and playful storyteller in its own right, weaving visual humor, mood, and commentary directly into the fabric of the film. The director of photography crafts each shot with an awareness that the camera is as much a character as Derek King himself, a visual narrator that loves Derek, but also delights in exposing his missteps and delusions. This dual role makes the cinematography vital to the film's unique personality and tone. From the moment the film begins, the camera work grabs your attention with its bold, deliberate choices. Derek is almost always given center stage, literally and figuratively. The framing often places him smack dab in the middle of the screen, a composition that both celebrates and mocks his outsized ego. This technique creates a humorous disconnect. The visuals treat Derek as a leading man of urban cool, with dramatic close-ups, heroic low-angle shots, and dynamic tracking shots following his every move, while the story and other characters show how far from reality his self-image actually is. This contrast is a visual punchline that plays out again and again, reinforcing the film's satirical edge. The camera angles aren't content with straightforward shots. The cinematographer frequently employs Dutch angles, tilted frames that throw the viewer off balance, to reflect Derek's internal confusion and the instability of his place in the world. These angles subtly inject unease and disorientation into scenes that might otherwise be played straight as comedy. In other moments, low-angle shots elevate Derek to almost mythic proportions, as the camera itself buys into his delusions of grandeur. Then, moments later, a high-angle shot might swoop down to dwarf him, emphasizing his vulnerability and social awkwardness. This push and pull perspectives creates a visual rhythm that mirrors the ups and downs of Derek's chaotic day. Lighting choices throughout the film are vibrant and expressive, far from the dimly lit or gritty aesthetic typical of urban dramas. Instead, the lighting is saturated with bold colors and sharp contrasts, giving many scenes a hyperreal, almost comic book quality. Neon signs, streetlights, and vivid interior lighting flood the frame with energy, turning mundane locations, a convenience store, a street corner, a church, into vibrant stages for Derek's misadventures. Night scenes glow with the warmth of streetlights and the cool gleam of neon, balancing light and shadow to create a visually rich world that feels both familiar and exaggerated. This heightened lighting supports the film's tone perfectly, signaling that we're not in a documentary, but a stylized universe where anything can happen. The framing of shots is consistently inventive and carefully tailored to the film's humor. Close-ups are used strategically to capture the actors' exaggerated expressions. The wide eyes, skeptical looks, smirks, and grimaces that sell every joke and reaction. These tight frames pull viewers into the emotional core of each scene, often magnifying comedic discomfort or surprise. On the other hand, wide shots serve to immerse us in the film's bustling environments, often packed with extras and background action that add layers to the chaos. These large-scale compositions feel like a neighborhood carnival in full swing, alive with movement and overlapping storylines. The interplay between intimate close-ups and expansive crowd scenes keeps the visual storytelling dynamic and engaging. Visually striking moments are peppered throughout the film and often rely on the cinematographer's willingness to push boundaries. One memorable sequence follows Derek as he struts down the street, captured in a long, flowing tracking shot reminiscent of a music video. The camera circles him, swoops low, and then rises high, perfectly syncing with the energy and misplaced confidence of character. The fluidity and style of this shot transform what could have been a simple walk into a grand spectacle of delusion. Another standout visual moment comes in a scene where Derek realizes he screwed up badly. The camera zooms in sharply on his face, holding the shot just long enough to amplify his panic and absurdity without a word being spoken. These carefully crafted visuals take advantage of the cinematographer's keen eye for comedic timing. Reaction shots are a cinematographic highlight and a crucial part of the film's humor. The camera doesn't just focus on Derek. It frequently cuts to nearby characters giving skeptical side eyes, incredulous glances, or outright looks of disbelief. These moments are framed tightly, often lingering just a fraction longer than expected to stretch the tension and invite the audience to share in the character's silent judgment. This technique builds a rhythm of social commentary through visuals alone, making the camera an accomplice in humor. Sometimes the cinematography even exaggerates these reactions with slightly off-center framing or slow zooms, making the awkwardness almost tangible. When the film shifts to quieter, more personal moments, the cinematography adapts but retains its creative flair. Instead of rapid movement and vivid colors, the camera will hold steady, framing characters in softer light and simpler compositions. These moments allow actors' performances to shine and offer viewers a brief pause amidst the chaos. Even so, the camera's presence is never passive. It gently highlights the absurdity or vulnerability beneath the surface, keeping the tone consistent. This balance between high energy and calm visual storytelling deepens the film's texture and keeps the audience emotionally engaged. Lighting and framing also subtly reinforce the film's social context and cultural themes. Scenes set in Derek's neighborhood are often bathed in warm, inviting tones, golden light spilling over faces and streets, suggesting a sense of community and belonging, even if Derek himself is out of place. In contrast, scenes featuring authority figures or formal settings use colder, harsher lighting and more rigid, symmetrical framing to convey discomfort, alienation, or tension. These visual cues quietly underscore Derek's ongoing struggle to fit in, highlighting the cultural and social divides without ever stating them outright. The cinematography's rough-edge style isn't about polished perfection. Instead, it embraces a raw, spontaneous aesthetic that matches the film's overall tone of controlled chaos. The camera moves with an improvisational feel, darting between characters, capturing moments of surprise or awkwardness as if it's a witness caught in the middle of unfolding madness. This style makes the world feel lived in and authentic, even as the story unfolds in increasingly absurd directions. The cinematographer's instinct for capturing these unscripted moments adds a layer of spontaneity and freshness that keeps the audience hooked. In summary, the cinematography in the breaks is a masterclass in using visual language to enhance storytelling. Through inventive camera angles, vibrant lighting, dynamic framing, and clever visual timing, it shapes the audience's experience, amplifying comedy, building atmosphere, and deepening character without a single explanatory line. The editing in the breaks is like the beating heart of the entire film. Fast, unpredictable, and full of energy. It doesn't just piece together scenes in traditional, seamless way. Instead, it embraces the chaos of Derek's world and mirrors his restless, overconfident, and often misguided spirit. The editors throw out any notion of calm, slow build, or lingering emotional moments, and instead choose to keep the pace lightning quick, flipping through scenes like the rapid-fire cuts of a music video or a stand-up comedy special. This editing style is not just a technical choice, but a core storytelling device that helps define the tone and personality of the film. From a very first cut, the editing grabs you by the collar and pulls you into Derek's wild ride. The film feels like a non-stop rush of activity where every scene slides into the next with whip pans, jump cuts, and sometimes sudden, jarring transitions that keep you on your toes. There's no time to get comfortable here. You're meant to feel the energy, the messiness, and the unpredictability of Derek's world to the editing itself. This style turned the film into a kind of visual mixtape or sketch compilation where each scene brings a fresh gag, a new beat, or a sudden shift in perspective. Seamless transitions aren't really the goal in the breaks. Instead, the editors play with abrupt cuts and quick changes that mimic flipping channels or scrolling through a frenetic social media feed. One moment you're deep in a chaotic street party with Derek confidently, if cluelessly, holding court, and the next you're suddenly inside a church sermon or watching a bizarre confrontation in a convenience store. This approach helps keep the tone fresh and surprising and reflects the disjointed, erratic nature of Derek's attempts to fit in and find his place. The editing itself becomes a kind of joke on Derek's fragmented sense of self and belonging. The pacing is relentless, almost to the point of exhaustion, which perfectly suits Derek's manic personality. He never slows down, always talking, moving, and getting into trouble, and the editing refuses to slow down either. Scenes are tight, dialogue exchanges rapid fire, and the film rarely gives the audience a chance to catch their breath. This breakneck tempo keeps the comedy sharp and the energy high, making it feel like a constant roller coaster of absurd situations and misunderstandings. It's the perfect rhythm for a movie that's less interested in deep emotional exploration and more focused on quick laughs and wild scenarios. Despite this frenzied pace, the editing is surprisingly adept at balancing chaos with clarity. While the film moves fast, it never feels confusing or sloppy. The editors expertly use visual and audio cues to help guide the audience through each scene, whether it's a musical beat, a character's reaction shot, or a well-timed pause that lets a joke land perfectly before jumping to the next gag. These brief moments of rhythm and pause act like comedic punctuation marks, giving the audience just enough space to laugh and absorb the humor before the story races ahead. One of the real stars of the editing is its impeccable comedic timing. The editors know exactly when to cut to a character's deadpan reaction or when to hold on a cringeworthy expression just long enough to make the embarrassment unbearable but hilarious. Quick cuts are used to heighten tension or surprise, and slow zoom-ins punctuate moments of panic or self-delusion, allowing visual humor to shine through. The interplay between timing and rhythm ensures the film's jokes hit with maximum impact, turning even small moments into laugh-out-loud gems. Music plays a huge role in shaping the film's editing rhythm. The soundtrack doesn't just play in the background, it drives scene transitions, underscores Derek's bravado, and energizes chaotic sequences. Editors align cuts with musical beats, creating a dance-like flow that immerses viewers in the urban soundscape of Derek's world. When the tempo speeds up, so does the editing, creating exhilarating sequences where visuals and music sync perfectly. When the soundtrack drops or shifts mood, the editing responds in kind, either giving space for emotional beats or escalating the comedic tension. At times, the editing deliberately pushes the audience into sensory overload, mirroring Derek's overwhelmed, out-of-place experience. Rapid-fire cuts, overlapping dialogue, and montage-style sequences create a sense of dizzying hustle and bustle. This sensory bombardment effectively puts the viewer in Derek's shoes, feeling the chaotic swirl of street life, social pressure, and identity confusion. It's an editing choice that's both immersive and thematically on point. Although the film races through its story, it never sacrifices emotional connection. The editors use brief but effective slower cuts and pauses to let moments of vulnerability, frustration, or awkward self-awareness register with the audience. These quieter beats are like little islands in a fast-moving sea of chaos, short, focused, and impactful. Even in these slower moments, the editing maintains a playful tone, making sure the film never feels weighed down or sentimental. The final act of the film showcases the editing at its most daring and energetic. Multiple storylines converge. Characters reappear for callbacks, and the comedy escalates into full-blown madness. The editors juggle all these elements with a deft hand, keeping the pace frantic but controlled. Visual and audio cues guide the audience through the chaos, ensuring that even as the film throws everything at the screen, it never loses its narrative thread or comedic timing. This crescendo of editing intensity mirrors Derek's own unraveling and the film's thematic exploration of identity and belonging. In summary, the editing and pacing of the breaks are central to its identity as a high-energy, fast-talking comedy with a unique voice. The film's flow mimics the erratic, overconfident, and often misguided journey of a protagonist, using rapid cuts, unpredictable transitions, and sharp comedic timing to keep audiences engaged from start to finish. The editors don't just assemble the story. They choreograph a visual and auditory roller coaster that pulls viewers into Derek's wild world, balancing humor, chaos, and heart in every frame. It's an exhilarating ride that leaves no room for boredom, making sure every second counts in this madcap urban adventure. The soundtrack and score of the breaks don't just accompany the film. They actively shape its entire atmosphere and emotional landscape, turning every scene into a richer, more immersive experience. From a first note, it's clear that music isn't an afterthought here. Instead, it's woven into the fabric of the story like an essential character, pulsing with the same energy, attitude, and unpredictability as Derek himself. The film soundscape serves as a vibrant soundtrack to Derek's chaotic journey, guiding viewers to the highs and lows with beats, rhythms, and moments of silence. They're every bit as expressive as the dialogue or visuals. One of the most striking things about the soundtrack is how deeply it's rooted in the urban environment that the breaks inhabits. The music features a rich blend of gritty hip-hop beats, old-school funk grooves, jazzy undertones, and occasional soulful interludes that perfectly reflect the cultural tapestry of Derek's neighborhood. This isn't just background music. It's the sonic heartbeat of the streets, block parties, and late-night hangouts where the story unfolds. Each track feels like it was chosen with care to evoke a specific time, place, or mood, pulling the audience into the world on a sensory level that visuals alone couldn't achieve. The soundtrack captures the rawness, the vibrancy, and the diversity of urban life, making the setting come alive in an authentic, palpable way. There are memorable compositions and recurring musical motifs that act as thematic anchors throughout the film. These motifs function almost like musical catchphrases tied to Derek's character and his roller coaster of confidence, embarrassment, and self-discovery. For example, when Derek strides into a scene with his trademark bravado, a funky, swagger-filled beat often kicks in, amplifying his larger-than-life but frequently misplaced self-image. These recurring themes create a sense of cohesion and continuity across the film's episodic narrative and serve as playful musical inside jokes that reward attentive viewers. They remind us that no matter how outlandish Derek's antics get, there's a rhythmic thread weaving it all together. The score expertly balances between vibrant, upbeat tracks and more subtle, introspective moments, providing a dynamic musical landscape that mirrors the film's emotional range. When the story shifts toward quieter, more vulnerable moments, such as Derek grappling with his identity or facing personal setbacks, the music pulls back, employing softer melodies, stripped-down instrumentation, or minimalistic textures. These quieter musical passages give room for the characters' feelings to breathe, preventing the soundtrack from overwhelming the narrative and allowing emotional depth to emerge naturally. This dynamic range keeps the soundtrack fresh and engaging, steering clear of monotony. One of the most artful uses of music in the breaks is the deliberate use of silence or near silence at key moments. The film isn't afraid to let the soundtrack drop out completely, creating space for awkward pauses, comedic timing, or raw emotional beats to resonate more powerfully. These quiet interludes serve as dramatic punctuation marks, heightening anticipation, or emphasizing the absurdity of a situation by contrast. When the music returns after a pause, it often feels like the story's pulse is restarting, injecting renewed energy and reminding viewers that the ride is far from over. The blending of soundtrack and story is seamless, with the music never overpowering the dialogue or action, but instead enhancing and complementing it. The soundtrack acts like a supportive partner, always attentive to the film's tone and pacing, knowing when to surge forward with energy and when to step back and let the moment speak for itself. This careful balance ensures that the music amplifies the film's humor and heart without stealing focus, making it feel like an organic extension of the storytelling rather than an external addition. Beyond just songs and melodies, the soundtrack incorporates environmental sounds and urban noises, sirens, street chatter, footsteps, the hum of traffic, that are skillfully mixed into the audio landscape. These elements add layers of texture and realism to the setting, grounding the film's exaggerated comedic world in a tangible sense of place. The ambient sounds create an immersive soundscape that envelopes viewers in Derek's world, making the neighborhood feel alive, bustling, and unpredictable. Editing and timing are crucial to how the soundtrack functions within the film. Music cues are meticulously timed to dialogue beats, punchlines, and visual gags, elevating comedic moments and adding rhythm to fast-paced scenes. For instance, a sharp musical sting might punctuate a sudden joke or surprise, while a smooth transition to music can mirror a scene's emotional shift. This choreography between sound and image creates a lively dance where music and narrative feed off each other, keeping audiences fully engaged and emotionally invested. In the film's more chaotic or action-heavy scenes, the soundtrack amplifies the sense of frenzy with layered rhythms, rapid beats, and dynamic shifts that match the on-screen energy. These musical surges make the viewer feel the whirlwind of Derek's experiences, the frantic pace, the overlapping conversations, the constant hustle, and heightened excitement. Conversely, during moments of reflection or awkwardness, the music steps back, slowing down or fading to allow the subtleties of performance and character interaction to come forward. The film's climax showcases the soundtrack's versatility and power as it weaves together many of the film's musical themes, building to a crescendo that matches the narrative's escalating chaos and emotional stakes. Here, the music acts as both a unifying force and an intensifier, pulling disparate threads together and driving the story toward its final moments with energy and flair. The soundtrack doesn't just support the film's ending, it helps deliver it with a sense of fun, urgency, and emotional resonance. Ultimately, the soundtrack and score of the breaks do far more than fill the silence. They are integral to the film's identity, infusing every scene with energy, humor, and heart. The music invites the audience to feel the rhythm of Derek's world, the excitement, the confusion, the highs, and the lows, making the film a fully immersive experience. Whether underscoring a comedic set piece, highlighting a character's moment of vulnerability, or driving the pace of a hectic scene, the soundtrack works tirelessly behind the scenes to keep viewers hooked and emotionally connected. It's the unseen force that turns the breaks from just a story into a vibrant, pulsating journey that resonates long after the screen goes dark. The Breaks isn't just a fast-paced comedy filled with wild antics and colorful characters. It's also a surprisingly thoughtful exploration of some deeper, universal themes that resonate far beyond the laughs. Beneath Derek's over-the-top swagger and the film's zany surface lies a rich tapestry of ideas about identity, belonging, cultural tension, and the masks people wear to navigate their worlds. These themes are woven into the story so organically that you might find yourself chuckling one moment, and then pausing to reflect the next, caught off guard by the film's emotional depth wrapped in humor. At the heart of the film lies the theme of identity, and it's one that feels as messy and complicated as Derek himself. Derek's exaggerated confidence and brash behavior are not just for comic effect. They're a protective shield masking his insecurities and confusion about who he really is. The film explores how identity is rarely a fixed or simple thing. Instead, it's a fluid, ongoing process shaped by personal experiences, cultural backgrounds, and social pressures. Derek's journey is a relatable one, highlighting the awkward, sometimes painful stages of self-discovery, especially when you're caught between different worlds or expectations. His missteps and attempts to reinvent himself feel like a universal dance anyone can recognize. The struggle to find where you fit without losing yourself. Belonging is another powerful undercurrent running through the breaks. Derek is desperate to be accepted, respected, and admired within his community and beyond. But the film doesn't shy away from showing how elusive that sense of belonging can be. It captures attention of wanting to fit in while feeling out of sync, marginalized, or misunderstood. This theme is explored not just through Derek's interactions, but also through the neighborhood's mix of old and new cultural influences, social dynamics, and shifting alliances. The film portrays belonging as complicated and sometimes contradictory, something to strive for but not easily won, and sometimes even at odds with authenticity. The idea of performance is central to the film's message as well. Derek's entire persona can be seen as performance, a crafted image he puts forward to claim status and power in his world. But the breaks cleverly extends this notion beyond just Derek, exploring how everyone is performing in some way, whether through how they speak, dress, or interact with others. The film uses humor to shine a light on the roles people adopt, the masks they wear to protect themselves or manipulate their environment, and the ways these performances can both empower and trap them. It asks us to consider how much of what we see in ourselves and others is authentic versus constructed, without ever getting heavy or preachy. Cultural clash and change are also prominent themes that give the film texture and relevance. The setting is a neighborhood where generations, traditions, and new influences collide, where music, fashion, and attitudes mix and sometimes clash in vivid, energetic ways. This cultural tension is not just window dressing. It reflects real struggles about identity, respect, and evolution within communities. The film captures these dynamics with sharp wit and observational humor, portraying how people negotiate their place amid constant change and shifting social landscapes. This exploration adds layers to the story, giving it a pulse that feels alive and current. Friendship and loyalty emerge as surprisingly complex themes beneath the comedic surface. Derek's relationships with his friends are portrayed with affectionate reverence. They support each other, but they also challenge, frustrate, and sometimes sabotage one another. The film doesn't idealize friendship, but rather presents it as messy and multifaceted, with moments of both genuine care and chaotic dysfunction. This nuanced take adds emotional weight and realism to the story, reminding viewers that even flawed relationships can be vital and meaningful. What makes these themes work so well is how the breaks integrates them seamlessly with its humor and narrative flow. The film doesn't shove these ideas in your face or turn into a lecture. Instead, it lets them emerge naturally from the characters' struggles and the story's twists. Humor acts like a Trojan horse, delivering sharp social commentary and emotional insight beneath the surface of punchlines and absurd situations. The film invites you to laugh with it, but also to think alongside it, offering a layered experience that entertains while provoking reflection. The film thrives on contradictions and paradoxes that highlight its themes. Derek's confidence is both his superpower and his Achilles heel, a tension explored through situational irony and character-driven comedy. His desire to belong clashes with his struggle to be authentic, creating a push and pull that fuels much of the narrative and humor. These contradictions make the film feel genuine and relatable, capturing the complex realities of identity and social dynamics. Ultimately, The Breaks uses its energetic comedic style to tell a story that's about more than just laughs. It's a lively, thoughtful exploration of how people carve out their identities, navigate social pressures, and build connections in a world that's often confusing and contradictory. The film's themes, identity, belonging, performance, cultural change, and friendship, give it surprising emotional resonance and staying power. Through its playful tone and sharp wit, The Breaks manages to be both an entertaining romp and a meaningful reflection on the messy, beautiful challenge of finding your place in the world. The film lingers in the mind, inviting viewers to see their own journeys mirrored in Derek's chaotic but heartfelt adventure. The visual effects and CGI in The Breaks may not be the first thing that jumps to mind when watching the film, but they play a subtle and surprisingly important role in shaping its unique visual identity and overall tone. Unlike blockbuster extravaganzas that bombard viewers with spectacular CGI spectacles, The Breaks takes a more restrained and purposeful approach to effects, carefully blending them into gritty, urban landscape that grounds a story. This smart, Measured use of visual effects ensures they support the film's storytelling and comedic goals without ever feeling like a distraction or an overreach. Right from the start, it's clear that the filmmakers wanted the world of breaks to feel tangible and lived in, a place that feels real, messy, and full of texture. That's why practical effects are such a cornerstone of the film's visual approach. From clever physical gags and intricately designed props to on-set stunts and well-executed set pieces, the practical effects add a visceral quality that digital effects alone often can't replicate. These tangible elements give the actors real things to react to and interact with, enhancing the comedic timing and grounding the absurdity in something viewers can almost reach out and touch. Practical effects also help preserve the film's raw, unpolished aesthetic, which is part of its charm. Instead of feeling like a polished studio production, the film has a slightly rough-around-the-edges look that matches Derek's offbeat personality and the chaotic neighborhood he inhabits. This gritty authenticity creates a world that feels believable and relatable, even when the story veers into outrageous territory. The tactile nature of practical effects reinforces this, making sure the comedy lands with a satisfying physicality. Where digital effects do come into play, they're used with a light touch and a clear sense of purpose. Instead of overwhelming scenes with flashy CGI, the filmmakers employ digital effects mainly as subtle enhancements that heighten certain moments without pulling viewers out of the story. For instance, CGI might be used to slightly exaggerate a character's expression for comedic effect, or to add small visual flourishes that underscore a gag or mood. These digital touches are carefully integrated so that they feel like natural extensions of the scene rather than jarring additions. This delicate balance between practical and digital effects is one of the film's strengths. The practical effects provide the gritty, grounded foundation that gives the breaks its texture and believability, while CGI steps in to add polish, whimsy, or exaggeration where needed. The two types of effects work in harmony, each complementing the other to create a visual style that's cohesive and engaging. This collaboration ensures that the film maintains its energetic, streetwise personality without feeling like it's trying too hard to impress with technology. One of the most entertaining uses of visual effects in the film is how they amplify the humor by playing with reality in unexpected ways. Instead of straightforward depictions, the effects sometimes push scenes into the realm of the cartoonish or surreal. For example, a quick zoom paired with a digitally enhanced reaction shot might turn a character's bewildered face into a hilarious visual punchline, or a seemingly mundane prop might be exaggerated in size or behavior, turning an everyday object into a source of absurd comedy. These inventive visual flourishes add an extra layer of playfulness to the film, reminding viewers that while the story is rooted in reality, it also loves to have fun with it. Action sequences and physical comedy scenes showcase the film's preference for practical stunt work and choreography over CGI spectacle. Instead of relying on digital trickery to create excitement, the film invests in carefully staged physical moments that feel immediate and authentic. When CGI is used in these sequences, it typically serves to enhance or smooth out the practical work, maybe by extending a stunt or emphasizing a comedic beat, rather than replace the raw physicality. This approach keeps the action grounded and relatable, while still allowing for moments of creative exaggeration. The timing and placement of visual effects within the film are also thoughtfully considered. Effects appear precisely when they're needed to boost comedic impact, clarify a visual joke, or enhance a narrative moment. They never linger too long or interrupt the flow, instead weaving seamlessly into the film's rhythm. This ensures the audience stays fully immersed in the story and the humor, with the effects acting as a kind of visual punctuation that sharpens and highlights key moments. Environmental effects and subtle CGI additions further enrich the film's atmosphere. Background elements such as enhanced lighting effects, digitally extended sets, or small enhancements to the urban environment add depth and realism without calling attention to themselves. These invisible layers of digital work help build a fully realized world that feels alive and textured, supporting the story without stealing focus from the characters and comedy. At moments where the film flirts with the surreal or absurd, the visual effects step up to match the tone. Quick bursts of animation, playful distortions, or exaggerated visual metaphors push scenes beyond realism just enough to surprise and delight. These moments of visual inventiveness break the fourth wall in subtle ways, inviting the audience to share in the joke and reminding them that the breaks is a place where imagination and humor thrive side by side. In all, the visual effects and CGI in the breaks are used with care, creativity, and a deep understanding of the film's tone and style. They enhance without overwhelming, support storytelling without distracting, and inject moments of surprise and delight without breaking immersion. By skillfully blending practical effects with digital enhancements, the filmmakers create a rich, textured visual world that perfectly complements the film's energetic, quirky spirit. Far from being just technical add-ons, the effects become a key part of the film's personality, helping to deliver a viewing experience that's both authentic and inventively playful from start to finish. The set design and locations in the breaks are nothing short of a love letter to urban life, bursting with so much character and detail that you feel like you've been transported straight into Derek's world, vibrant, messy, and full of unexpected charm. From the moment the camera sweeps across the city streets to the intimate close-ups inside cramped apartments, the environments are meticulously crafted to not only serve as backdrops, but also to actively tell their own stories, enrich the narrative, and breathe life into every scene. What stands out immediately is the authenticity of the locations chosen. The filmmakers clearly avoided glossy, sterile sets and instead embraced real neighborhoods with all their rough edges and hidden beauty. The streets are peppered with graffiti, the sidewalks worn by years of footsteps, and the buildings show signs of aging and history. This raw, lived-in atmosphere grounds a film and gives it a textured, almost tactile feel. You can almost hear the hum of the city, the chatter from nearby stoops, and the distant sounds of life unfolding, all of which are enhanced by the carefully selected visual elements within the sets. Derek's neighborhood isn't just a place. It's a vibrant ecosystem that pulses with culture, personality, and contradictions. Every locale, from the local corner store stacked high with snacks and essentials to the barbershop where gossip flows as freely as the haircuts, functions like a small stage filled with stories and characters waiting to be discovered. The attention to detail in props and set dressing is remarkable. A worn-out basketball, a stack of old records, flyers plastered on walls, neon signs flickering in the night. They're not random decorations, but deliberate choices that communicate the community's history, pride, and ongoing evolution. The design choices also cleverly reflect the social dynamics and tensions at play in the film. The physical spaces often mirror the characters' internal states or relationships. Derek's own living quarters, for example, feel cluttered and chaotic at times, reflecting his scattered thoughts and personal struggles. Meanwhile, public spaces like busy street corners and lively block parties are brimming with energy, echoing Derek's desire to be seen and validated by those around him. The use of tight, cramped interiors versus open, bustling exteriors creates a visual contrast that highlights themes of isolation and connection, confinement and freedom. Color plays a vital role in the film's visual storytelling as well. The palette is rich and diverse. Warm tones of brick, faded yellows, and deep reds mingle with the cooler blues and grays of concrete and asphalt. Pops of bright color in murals, clothing, and signage inject life and vibrancy, creating a visual rhythm that mirrors the film's energetic pacing. The colors not only please the eye, but also evoke moods and underscore narrative beats, whether it's the hopeful glow of a street lamp during a quiet moment or the chaotic clash of neon lights during a night out. The production design also does a fantastic job of capturing the cultural melting pot that defines Derek's environment. You'll notice layers of history embedded in the spaces. Retro posters and vinyl records hint at past musical eras, while contemporary graffiti and street fashion speak to ongoing cultural shifts. This layering reflects the film's themes of generational conflict and cultural identity, making the setting feel like a living, breathing organism that evolves alongside its inhabitants. Beyond just static scenery, the locations are dynamically integrated into the film's action and storytelling. Narrow alleyways become arenas for comedic chases and unexpected encounters, while crowded apartments and stoops provide intimate settings for character interactions. The way characters move through and interact with these spaces adds momentum and rhythm to scenes, turning the environment into an active participant in the narrative rather than a passive backdrop. Community hubs like the barbershop and corner store serve as social crossroads where the story's drama, humor, and gossip unfold. These spaces are depicted with warmth and nuance, highlighting their importance as gathering spots where relationships are forged, alliances shift, and cultural values are debated. The bustling energy in these locations gives a film a palpable sense of place and community, making viewers feel like they're part of something bigger. The interplay between interior and exterior locations is thoughtfully used to deepen emotional resonance. Interiors often feel cozy but cramped, reflecting personal and familial pressures, while the city streets burst with possibility but also unpredictability and danger. This contrast reinforces Derek's oscillation between private struggle and public performance, a visual metaphor for the dualities he navigates in his identity and aspirations. The set design also subtly supports the film's comedic tone. Quirky, unexpected details in the environment, an oddly placed object, a humorous poster, or a character's personalized space add layers of visual humor that reward attentive viewers. These small touches enhance the film's playful spirit, ensuring that the world feels as lively and unpredictable as Derek himself. Lighting and composition work hand in hand with production design to create atmospheres that range from warm and inviting to tense and edgy. Soft, diffuse lighting inside homes contrasts with harsh streetlights and neon glows outside, creating visual moods that echo the narrative's emotional shifts. The cinematography often frames the sets to emphasize their textures and depth, inviting the audience to explore the environment visually as much as narratively. Ultimately, the meticulous care given to set design and locations transforms The Breaks from a simple urban comedy into an immersive experience. The world feels authentic and fully realized, packed with details that reward repeat viewings and invite deeper exploration. These richly crafted environments not only enhance the story and characters, but also celebrate the complexity and vibrancy of urban life itself, making the setting a powerful storytelling tool that keeps viewers hooked and emotionally invested throughout Derek's wild, heartfelt journey. The dialogue and script in The Breaks truly shine as one of the film's most dynamic and essential elements, infusing every scene with life, energy, and personality. From the moment characters start talking, it's clear that the writers have crafted dialogue that's not just functional, but bursting with a distinct voice that matches the film's vibrant urban setting. The conversations crackle with authenticity. They feel less like scripted lines and more like real conversations overheard on bustling street corners, in crowded rooms, or hanging out at local spots. This natural, fluid style keeps audiences fully immersed, making the characters relatable and their world believable. One of the remarkable aspects of the script is how it balances sharp wit with genuine emotion. The film is packed with humorous exchanges, snappy one-liners, and quick comebacks that show off the characters' personalities in full color. The humor isn't shallow or repetitive. Instead, it's layered with clever wordplay, situational irony, and cultural references that resonate deeply with the film's setting and its audience. These moments of comedy don't just serve to entertain. They reveal character traits, highlight social dynamics, and underscore themes. The script respects the intelligence of its audience, delivering jokes that are funny but also smart and insightful. What elevates the script further is its emotional nuance. Beneath the humor and bravado lies a core of vulnerability and complexity, especially in Derek's character. The dialogue doesn't shy away from moments where characters reveal their fears, hopes, or frustrations. These heartfelt moments are woven seamlessly into the script, making the characters feel multidimensional rather than one-note caricatures. When Derek vents his insecurities or opens up about his struggles, the dialogue feels raw and honest, allowing the audience to connect on a deeper level. This emotional weight adds richness and resonance to the story, balancing the comedic chaos with meaningful reflection. Several lines of the film stand out as instantly memorable, becoming iconic catchphrases that capture the spirit of the movie. These standout quotes often blend humor with a sharp social or personal insight, turning a simple remark into a defining moment. They stick in the mind not just because they're funny, but because they crystallize a character's outlook or a scene's theme perfectly. These memorable lines often get replayed or quoted long after the credits roll, speaking to the script's knack for creating language that resonates beyond the screen. The dialogue is also a key tool for world building, revealing the nuances of the neighborhood's culture, values, and social hierarchies. Through slang, rhythm, and cadence, the script paints a vivid picture of the environment without needing explicit exposition. The characters' speech patterns reflect their backgrounds and relationships, adding layers of authenticity. The script captures the pulse of the community, with conversations that range from playful banter and teasing to serious debates and heartfelt exchanges. This linguistic texture enriches the film's setting and invites the audience to become fully invested in its social fabric. The script's pacing is another strength. The dialogue scenes shift skillfully between rapid-fire, high-energy exchanges and slower, more reflective moments. This variation prevents the film from becoming monotonous or predictable. Instead, it maintains a dynamic rhythm that mirrors the ebb and flow of real conversations. Silence, pauses, and unspoken meaning are used with precision, adding tension or humor when needed. The writers understand that what's left unsaid can be just as powerful as the spoken words, creating layers of meaning beneath the surface. Interactions between characters are particularly engaging because the script captures the chemistry and complexity of relationships. Whether it's Derek trading witty barbs with friends, trying to impress someone, or navigating awkward social dynamics, the dialogue crackles with tension, humor, and warmth. These verbal exchanges reveal motivations, loyalties, and conflicts in a way that feels organic and entertaining. The conversations often feel like a verbal dance, full of misdirection, playful challenges, and moments of unexpected honesty. This adds a compelling layer to the story and makes the characters' bonds feel real and nuanced. The script is also smart about its audience, layering humor that works on multiple levels. Some jokes are broad and immediately accessible, while others are subtle cultural references or social critiques that reward attentive viewers. This layering enriches the viewing experience, encouraging repeat watches to catch all the nuances. The humor serves as a bridge, connecting viewers to the film's world and its characters in a way that's both entertaining and thought-provoking. Moreover, the writing often uses dialogue to deepen the film's themes without being preachy. Issues of identity, belonging, and self-expression emerge naturally through how characters talk to each other, what they choose to say, and what they avoid. The script lets the audience infer these themes through sharp, witty exchanges rather than heavy-handed exposition. This subtlety allows the film to engage with serious ideas while maintaining a lively, playful tone. Overall, the dialogue and script of the breaks are masterfully crafted to do more than just tell the story. They bring the story's world and characters to life with vividness and nuance. They keep the film buzzing with energy and humor, while anchoring it in emotional truth. The memorable lines, naturalistic flow, and clever language combine to create an experience that is intellectually satisfying as it is entertaining. The writing is a vital force driving the film forward, ensuring that the breaks remains memorable, engaging, and resonant long after the final scene. The breaks doesn't just settle for fitting neatly into its genre box. It leaps out of it, does a little dance on top, and then settles back in with a fresh twist that keeps audiences entertained and on their toes. At first glance, the film wears a familiar badge of an urban comedy drama, with all the hallmark ingredients. A protagonist struggling to find his place, a richly textured neighborhood buzzing with life, a tight-knit community of quirky characters, and a story peppered with both laughs and heartfelt moments. But what makes The Break stand apart is how it embraces these genre staples while simultaneously bending and subverting them to avoid falling into tired cliches. Starting with the basics, the film hits those recognizable beats. Derek's journey towards self-discovery and respect in a community that's as challenging as it is colorful. The blend of humor and drama that reflects real-life's messy contradictions, and a lively ensemble cast that brings the neighborhood to life. These elements provide a familiar comfort zone for viewers who love urban stories. But The Breaks doesn't just coast on familiarity. It injects fresh energy through distinctive character voices, unexpected plot twists, and a sense of humor that's as smart as it is sharp. One of the most striking aspects of the film's genre execution is its tonal agility. Many urban comedies or dramas tend to lean heavily toward either laughs or pathos, but The Breaks dances gracefully between these poles, never overstaying its welcome in one mode. The humor is witty, often biting, and layered with cultural references that reward audience attention without ever feeling preachy. It's the kind of humor that arises naturally from character interactions and the social landscape, not from cheap gags or stereotypes. Meanwhile, when the story shifts to emotional territory, the drama feels earned and authentic, rooted in characters' real struggles and aspirations. This balance keeps the film feeling alive and unpredictable, constantly shifting in a way that mirrors real life's blend of chaos and tenderness. Action and suspense are not the film's primary focus, but when they do appear, they add just the right spark of excitement without overwhelming the narrative. Whether the frantic chase through crowded streets or a tense confrontation that crackles with unspoken history, these moments are choreographed to serve the story and the characters rather than showcase flashy effects or adrenaline alone. The suspense is often personal, hinging on relationships and social stakes rather than external threats, which keeps it grounded and emotionally resonant. This approach to action and tension fits perfectly within the film's overall rhythm and tone. The film's playful relationship with genre cliches is another highlight. It doesn't shy away from the tropes, but rather uses them as a springboard for creativity and commentary. The classic underdog striving for respect storyline is here, yes, but Derek is far from a one-dimensional hero. He's complex, flawed, and relatable. Side characters that might easily slip into stereotype are given quirks, vulnerabilities, and surprises that breathe life into them. By acknowledging these cliches and twisting them, The Breaks invites the audience to both laugh with and think about the genre conventions, creating a metatextual layer that adds depth and fun. Narrative pacing also plays a crucial role in the film's genre success. It follows a recognizable structure, but spices it up with inventive storytelling techniques and character-driven moments that defy expectations. The plot unfolds with enough twists, missteps, and revelations to maintain interest, but never resorts to convoluted or gimmicky plot devices. The writers show a keen understanding of how to keep the story moving at a lively pace, balancing moments of high energy with scenes that allow characters and relationships to breathe. This pacing keeps viewers engaged and emotionally invested, a hallmark of effective genre filmmaking. Visually and sonically, The Breaks also pushes the genre envelope. The cinematography, sound design, and music combine to create a rich sensory experience that elevates the storytelling. The film uses lighting, color palettes, and camera work to amplify moods, whether it's the gritty reality of street life or the warmth of a close-knit community gathering. The soundtrack, filled with culturally resonant music, doesn't just fill space but becomes a character in itself, setting tone and underscoring themes. These artistic choices deepen the genre experience and distinguish the film from more generic entries. Cultural specificity is key to how The Breaks revitalizes a genre. By immersing the story deeply in a particular urban environment, complete with authentic slang, fashion, social dynamics, and music, the film creates a vivid, lived-in world that feels unique. This grounding in a real, identifiable culture enriches the narrative, adding layers of meaning and making the humor and drama more impactful. It also allows the film to speak to particular communities while inviting a broader audience to understand and appreciate that world. The interplay of humor and seriousness is deftly handled throughout. The film knows when to ramp up the laughs with sharp dialogue and situational comedy, and when to pull back for moments of reflection and vulnerability. This dynamic tension keeps the tone balanced and prevents the story from feeling either trivial or overly heavy. The result is a viewing experience that's emotionally resonant while still highly entertaining. Ultimately, The Break succeeds by honoring its genre's roots while pushing boundaries with creativity and insight. It respects audience expectations, but isn't afraid to challenge them, blending humor, drama, action, and cultural nuance in a way that feels fresh and vibrant. The film's confident navigation of its genre terrain, embracing, tweaking, and sometimes appending conventions, makes it a standout entry that delivers both comfort and surprise, keeping viewers hooked and satisfied from start to finish. The Breaks is not just a movie about a young guy trying to find his footing. It's also a lively, layered conversation about some of the most pressing social and cultural issues bubbling beneath the surface of modern urban life. What's remarkable is how the film manages to weave these important themes seamlessly into the story, without ever coming across as preachy or heavy-handed. Instead, the commentary flows naturally through the characters' everyday experiences, their relationships, and the vibrant community they navigate, making it feel authentic and relatable rather than forced or didactic. Right from the start, the film positions itself as a mirror to the realities many face growing up in urban neighborhoods, especially when it comes to economic challenges, social expectations, and cultural identity. You're invited into Derek's world, where dreams and frustrations coexist, and where systemic barriers are part of the backdrop but never the sole focus. This environment feels palpably real, not a sanitized, movie-idealized version, but plays full of grit, color, and contradictions. Through the lens of Derek's personal journey, the film explores how larger societal forces play out on an intimate, human scale. One of the standout themes is the exploration of identity, how it's formed, challenged, and expressed. Derek's struggle isn't just about making it or gaining respect. It's about understanding who he is within a complex cultural landscape that sometimes demands conformity but also celebrates individuality. The film skillfully portrays this tension, using moments of humor, conflict, and vulnerability to show how identity is constantly negotiated. Whether it's through his interactions with friends, family, or the community, Derek's path reflects a broader conversation about belonging and self-definition in a world that often tries to box people in. The film's cultural commentary goes beyond surface-level details and dives deep into the lived experiences of the community. Music, fashion, language, and social rituals are not just background flavor. They're an integral part of how characters express themselves and connect with each other. This cultural richness is portrayed with affection and pride, highlighting the creativity, resilience, and vibrancy that thrive even amid adversity. The soundtrack, for example, doesn't just set a mood. It's a narrative force that echoes the character's emotions and cultural heritage, adding layers of meaning to the film's social landscape. Economic disparity and social inequality thread through the story in ways that feel genuine and grounded. Jobs, schooling, and interactions with authority figures serve as realistic depictions of the hurdles many young people face. Yet the film avoids turning these into stereotypes or melodrama. Instead, these challenges are part of the world building, affecting the characters' choices and opportunities, but never defining them entirely. The film respects its audience's intelligence, allowing viewers to absorb these social realities through context rather than explicit exposition. Relationships in the breaks act as powerful microcosms of social dynamics. Friendships, family ties, romantic entanglements, and community bonds are shown with complexity and nuance, reflecting the messy, beautiful ways people support and challenge each other. Through these relationships, the film delves into themes of loyalty, trust, ambition, and sacrifice, all of which mirror broader cultural conversations about identity, community, and resilience. The characters' interactions reveal both the strength and fragility of social ties, illustrating how connection can be a source of empowerment as well as conflict. Humor plays a critical role in how the film tackles serious topics. The sharp, witty dialogue often carries double meanings, serving as a way for characters to cope with hardship, critique societal norms, or assert their individuality. This humor ensures the film remains lively and accessible, preventing the weightier themes from becoming overwhelming. It's a balancing act that few films pull off so well, making the audience laugh while prompting them to think deeply about issues like race, class, and cultural identity. The filmmakers show a clear sensitivity in handling delicate subjects, avoiding one-dimensional portrayals or cliches. Characters are given depth, flaws, and contradictions that humanize them and elevate the social commentary. This nuanced portrayal fosters empathy and understanding, inviting viewers to see the complexity behind social issues rather than relying on simplistic narratives. The film respects the humanity of its characters, making their stories feel universal even as they're deeply rooted in a specific cultural context. In addition, the breaks reflect contemporary shifts in culture and technology, subtly weaving in elements like the influence of social media, the evolution of music scenes, and changing modes of communication. These details ground the film firmly in its time, showing how culture is not static but constantly evolving. The characters navigate this changing landscape with a mix of nostalgia and innovation, reflecting real-world tensions between tradition and modernity. Overall, the film's social and cultural commentary is a rich tapestry woven into its narrative fabric. It doesn't stop to lecture, but rather invites the audience to observe, listen, and connect with the characters' lived experiences. By embedding these themes in the texture of everyday life, through dialogue, setting, relationships, and humor, the Breaks creates a viewing experience that's both entertaining and thought-provoking. It celebrates the resilience and creativity of communities often overlooked, while candidly acknowledging the systemic challenges they face. The film's ability to engage with complex social issues so naturally and respectfully is part of what gives it its lasting impact and emotional resonance. The Breaks grabs its audience from the very first scene and doesn't let go, pulling viewers into a world that feels alive, relatable, and full of surprises. This film is designed to hit you on all the right emotional notes, delivering moments that spark laughter, tug at your heartstrings, and even catch you off guard with unexpected twists. It's the kind of movie that invites you to feel along with the characters, making their joys and struggles your own, which create a powerful connection that keeps you glued to the screen. Laughter flows freely throughout the film, often bursting out in the most natural, spontaneous ways. The humor is sharp and witty, sometimes sly, sometimes bold, and always perfectly timed. Whether it's Derek's quick comebacks, the playful banter among friends, or those moments of situational comedy that arise from everyday chaos, the film knows how to tickle a funny bone without ever resorting to cheap gags. These laughs aren't just for comic relief. They help build a sense of camaraderie between the audience and the characters, making viewers feel like they're part of the neighborhood's vibrant, sometimes chaotic, but always loving social fabric. But it's not just a comedy. The Breaks expertly balances these light-hearted moments with scenes that hit deeper emotional chords. There are moments of genuine vulnerability, when characters reveal their fears, hopes, and disappointments that strike a chord and invite empathy. These instances are never heavy-handed or melodramatic. Instead, they flow naturally from the story and dialogue, allowing the audience to truly understand and care about the characters' journeys. It's this blend of humor and heart that gives the film its emotional richness and resonance. The film also knows how to inject bursts of excitement and tension, keeping the audience on the edge of their seats at times. Whether it's a heated confrontation, a chaotic chase, or a pivotal turning point that changes the course of Derek's life, these moments add energy and urgency that break up the emotional rhythm and keep the narrative moving forward. The surprises and twists are well-earned and thoughtfully executed, avoiding predictability and making viewers eager to see what happens next. What makes The Breaks especially engaging is how it invites ongoing reflection and discussion. The characters and themes linger in your mind long after the credits roll, sparking conversations about identity, community, ambition, and the challenges of growing up. The film's nuanced portrayal of its social and cultural landscape encourages viewers to think critically about the world it depicts, while still enjoying the ride. It's the kind of movie you want to talk about with friends, debating characters' choices, or unpacking the layers of humor and meaning. Repeat viewings are almost a given because of the film's rich texture and layered storytelling. On a second or third watch, you catch subtleties you missed the first time, the clever lines of dialogue, the small gestures between characters, or the background details that flesh out the world. This depth rewards attentive viewers and transforms the film from a one-time entertainment into a lasting favorite. The emotional journey in The Breaks is crafted with care, creating moments that make you smile, laugh out loud, maybe even shed a tear, and always stay emotionally invested. The characters feel like real people, with flaws and dreams that resonate universally, which makes their highs and lows hit home. The film's ability to evoke a wide spectrum of feelings, joy, nostalgia, tension, hope, ensures that the audience is not just watching passively, but is fully engaged and connected. Moreover, the pacing and storytelling keep you hooked, weaving together humor, drama, and action in a way that feels fresh and unpredictable. This dynamic flow prevents a film from ever feeling dull or monotonous, maintaining a lively momentum that carries you through every scene. In essence, The Breaks knows how to create an emotional roller coaster that's as entertaining as it is meaningful. It builds a bridge between the character's world and the audience's heart, making the experience memorable and impactful. Whether you're laughing at the witty dialogue, feeling the sting of a tough moment, or getting caught up in an adrenaline-fueled sequence, the film pulls you in and keeps you engaged from start to finish. When you stack The Breaks up against other films in the urban comedy drama genre, it's like watching a fresh new voice stepping confidently onto a well-trodden stage and instantly commanding attention. Sure, the film shares some DNA with classics and contemporary favorites, those coming-of-age tales set against the backdrop of vibrant city life, stories about ambition, friendship, and the hustle to carve out your place. But what The Breaks brings to the table is a distinctive energy and authenticity that separates it from the pack, injecting new life into familiar territory without reinventing the wheel. Compared to genre heavyweights like Do the Right Thing or Boys in the Hood, The Breaks doesn't just retread similar themes of community, struggle, and identity. It updates and personalizes them through its unique cast of characters and specific cultural moments. It's less about grand social commentary and more about the micro-level, lived-in experience of youth navigating a complex urban environment. This gives the film a more intimate feel, allowing to explore nuances of everyday life that bigger, more epic dramas might overlook. It's like zooming in on the small, sometimes hilarious or awkward moments that define growing up in this world, giving those moments a spotlight all their own. In terms of tone and style, The Break straddles a line between humor and drama with a deftness that recalls films like Friday or The Wood. But it doesn't just mimic their laid-back, dialogue-driven vibe. It spices things up with sharper social insights and a more dynamic narrative pace. The film balances the playful banter and comedic timing you expect from urban comedies with moments of genuine emotional weight that hit deeper than a simple laugh. It's this blend that helps it stand out, offering a richer, more textured experience that appeals to both fans of comedy and those looking for a meaningful story. Looking at it from the perspective of the director's previous work, if applicable, The Breaks might feel like a natural evolution, showing a filmmaker growing into their voice and pushing boundaries a bit further. It's as if the director has taken lessons learned from past projects, maybe honing their ability to blend humor with heart, or sharpening their eye for authentic dialogue and cultural specificity, and poured all that into this film. The result is a work that feels confident, polished, and fully realized, without losing that sense of rawness and immediacy that keeps things grounded. While The Breaks does follow some familiar formulas, like the underdog's journey, the tight-knit friend group, and the quest for respect, it often subverts expectations through clever twists and character depth. Where you might anticipate cliches, the film surprises with fresh perspectives or unexpected emotional turns. Characters refuse to be pigeonholed. Sidekicks aren't just comic relief but have their own arcs and complexities, and the protagonist's path is anything but predictable. This willingness to play with genre conventions while respecting them keeps the film feeling lively and original. Visually and stylistically, the film holds its own compared to similar titles. It avoids flashy gimmicks or over-stylization in favor of grounded, immersive aesthetic that places you right in the thick of the neighborhood life. The cinematography and production design complement the story without calling attention to themselves, letting the characters and their interactions take center stage. This understated approach contrasts with some genre entries that go for glitz or overt stylization, making The Breaks feel more intimate and relatable. Soundtrack-wise, The Breaks matches or even surpasses many of its peers, using music not just as background but as an active participant in the storytelling. The selections are carefully curated to reflect the culture and era authentically, amplifying mood and character emotions without overwhelming the scenes. This careful musical integration adds another layer that fans of the genre will appreciate, as music often serves as a heartbeat of urban stories. When you think about franchises or sequels in this space, The Breaks feels like a standalone gem, self-contained yet rich enough that it can inspire follow-ups or spin-offs if desired. It doesn't rely on existing franchises or well-known IPs to draw attention, which gives a refreshing sense of originality and confidence. It proves that you don't need a big brand name to tell compelling stories that resonate deeply with audiences. In comparison to other films tackling similar themes, whether through indie productions or bigger studio releases, The Breaks offers a unique mix of humor, heart, and cultural specificity that gives a distinct voice. It's a film that respects its influences but is afraid to carve out its own niche, appealing both to longtime fans of the genre and newcomers looking for something authentic and engaging. All in all, when placed alongside its cinematic cousins, The Break stands tall not by reinventing the wheel, but by spinning it with flair, personality, and a fresh perspective that feels both familiar and excitingly new. It's the kind of film that pays homage to what's come before, while confidently staking its claim in the genre's vibrant landscape. The Breaks is a treasure trove of symbolism and metaphor that adds fascinating layers beneath its lively surface, turning what might seem like a straightforward story into a richer, more textured experience. The film doesn't just tell you what's happening. It invites you to look closer, catch the hidden cues, and appreciate the clever ways it uses visual language and recurring motifs to deepen its themes. These subtle elements don't just decorate the story. They amplify its emotional and cultural impact, making the film more engaging and rewarding for viewers who like to dig a little deeper. One of the most prominent symbolic threads running through the film is the idea of breaking itself, which works on multiple levels. On the surface, it references the hip-hop dance style, a cultural touchstone that embodies creativity, expression, and resilience, key themes in the film. But it also symbolizes a character's personal struggles and transformations, the breaking down of old identities and limitations, and the push to break free from societal expectations or challenging circumstances. This motif echoes to the film's visuals and narrative arcs, reminding viewers that growth often involves breaking things apart to build something new. The film frequently uses urban settings as a metaphorical backdrop for the characters' internal journeys. The neighborhood streets, graffiti-covered walls, and run-down buildings aren't just realistic settings. They become symbols of both constraint and possibility. These spaces represent the harsh realities the characters face, but also the cultural richness and community strength that define their world. Scenes framed against vibrant murals or dynamic street art subtly highlight the theme of self-expression amid adversity, turning the cityscape into a living canvas for the characters' stories. Color symbolism plays a subtle but powerful role as well. The film often contrasts muted, gritty tones of the environment with bursts of bright colors, whether in clothing, signage, or lighting, that signify hope, individuality, and moments of joy. These splashes of color serve as visual metaphors for the characters' aspirations and personalities breaking through the gray backdrop of their struggles. The way light and shadow are used in key scenes also adds emotional texture, with shadows often symbolizing obstacles or inner conflicts, while light represents moments of clarity, connection, or breakthrough. Recurring motifs, such as music and dance, function as more than just cultural markers. They become metaphors for communication, identity, and resistance. Music often underscores pivotal emotional moments, highlighting how it connects characters to their heritage and each other. Dance scenes are carefully crafted to symbolize freedom, unity, and self-expression, providing visual metaphors for the characters' desire to claim their place in the world on their own terms. Objects and props in the film also carry symbolic weight. For example, a worn-out pair of sneakers might represent a character's journey, their resilience, and the passage of time. A microphone or a boombox isn't just a tool for music. It's a symbol of voice and agency, the power to be heard in a world that often tries to silence marginalized perspectives. These everyday items become powerful metaphors embedded in the narrative, enriching the storytelling in subtle ways. The film structure itself can be seen as a metaphor for the nonlinear, unpredictable path of growth and self-discovery. Scenes sometimes loop back, echoing earlier moments with new understanding, or shift perspectives to reveal hidden layers of meaning. This storytelling approach reinforces the theme that life isn't a straight line. It's full of detours, setbacks, and revelations, all part of the process of breaking and rebuilding. Character arcs are infused with metaphorical significance too. Derek's journey is not just about external success, but about breaking through internal barriers, self-doubt, fear, and societal pressures. His transformation can be read as a metaphor for the broader struggles faced by youth trying to define themselves in a world that often imposes limitations. Other characters embody complementary metaphors, representing various facets of community, aspiration, and resilience that together create a mosaic of meaning. Visual cues such as mirrors, reflections, and windows recur throughout the film, symbolizing self-examination, duality, and the contrast between inner desires and external realities. These images invite viewers to think about identity and perception, reinforcing the film's thematic exploration of who we are versus who we want to be or are expected to be. The interplay of silence and sound also operates on a metaphorical level. Moments of quiet often follow or precede emotional or narrative turning points, emphasizing introspection or highlighting the weight of unspoken tensions. Conversely, bursts of music or noise can symbolize release, celebration, or chaos, mirroring the character's emotional states. In sum, the symbolic and metaphorical elements in the breaks don't just add artistic flair. They weave through the film's narrative and visuals to deepen the storytelling. They invite viewers to engage actively, to pick up on the subtleties, and to connect the dots between what's seen and what's felt. This rich layering transforms the film from a simple tale into a multifaceted exploration of identity, culture, and transformation, making each viewing a chance to discover something new hidden just beneath the surface. The Breaks doesn't just drop into your lap as a standalone story. It carries with a rich historical and cultural backdrop that adds depth and resonance to everything unfolding on screen. While it's not part of a sprawling franchise with sequels and spin-offs, the film exists within a broader narrative tradition that chronicles the evolution of urban culture, particularly hip-hop and its associated communities. This historical context is key to understanding not just the character's struggles and triumphs, but the very spirit and tone of the movie. Set in the late 1990s, The Breaks taps into a vibrant era when hip-hop was solidifying its place as a dominant cultural force, influencing everything from fashion and language to politics and social movements. This was a time marked by both creative explosion and socio-political challenges, and the film immerses you in that world with authenticity and detail. From the soundtrack pulsing with classic beats to the way the characters dress and talk, the movie feels like a time capsule that captures the energy, style, and tensions of the period without ever feeling like a museum exhibit. The film setting is more than just a backdrop. It's a living, breathing part of the story. The neighborhoods, the clubs, the streets all come alive with a palpable sense of place and time. This immersive environment helps viewers understand the pressures and possibilities facing the characters, grounding their personal journeys in real-world dynamics. You can almost feel the pulse of the city's music scene, the buzz of local hangouts, and the undercurrents of social change that ripple through every scene. In terms of historical accuracy, The Break strikes a careful balance between dramatization and authenticity. The filmmakers clearly did their homework, paying close attention to the cultural details that make the era come alive, whether it's the slang, the music, the technology, or the social attitudes. At the same time, the story doesn't get bogged down in exposition or nostalgia trips. It uses history as a living context to enrich the characters and their dilemmas, making the past feel immediate and relevant rather than distant or dusty. The film also nods to real historical figures, events, and movements within the hip-hop community, weaving these references into the narrative in ways that feel organic rather than forced. These touches add layers of meaning for viewers familiar with the culture, while also serving as entry points for newcomers to appreciate the roots and significance of the story being told. Though not part of a franchise, The Breaks connects to a lineage of films and media that document the rise of hip-hop and urban culture, standing alongside classics that explore similar themes but bringing its own fresh perspective. It builds on this history by focusing not just on the music industry's stars, but on the everyday people whose lives and dreams fuel the culture's heartbeat. This focus gives the film a grounded, human angle that complements the grander historical narratives. The cultural and historical context also informs the film's themes of identity, ambition, and resilience. The characters' personal stories reflect broader social currents, such as economic inequality, racial dynamics, and the struggle for self-expression within often restrictive environments. Understanding the historical setting adds richness to these themes, highlighting how individual journeys are intertwined with larger forces shaping their world. Visually and orally, the film's commitment to its period is evident in its production design, costume choices, and soundtrack selection. These elements work in harmony to create an immersive sensory experience that transports viewers back to a defining moment in cultural history. The attention to detail ensures that the setting feels lived in and authentic, inviting audiences to step fully into the era rather than just observing it from a distance. Finally, the film's historical and cultural grounding gives it a timeless quality. While deeply rooted in a specific time and place, the struggles and aspirations it portrays resonate beyond their immediate context, speaking to universal themes of youth, creativity, and the search for belonging. This blend of specificity and universality is part of what makes The Breaks compelling and enduring. In summary, The Break serves as both a vibrant slice of late 90s urban culture and a heartfelt story of personal growth set against a richly detailed historical backdrop. Its immersive portrayal of this pivotal era elevates the film, inviting audiences to experience not just a moment in time, but the cultural heartbeat that continues to influence today. When it comes to the budget of The Breaks, this film walks a fine line between ambition and resourcefulness, proving that you don't always need a blockbuster-sized bankroll to create something that feels rich, authentic, and immersive. The budget may not have been astronomical by Hollywood standards, but it was certainly put to excellent use, with every dollar stretching to deliver a production that punches well above its weight. The attention to detail in costumes, sets, and especially the soundtrack, arguably one of the film's biggest assets, showcases savvy spending focus on what truly matters, capturing the essence of a pivotal cultural moment. Production quality reflects this smart allocation of resources. While the film doesn't rely on flashy special effects or high-octane action set pieces, it nails the atmosphere and tone through carefully curated environments, authentic locations, and solid technical craftsmanship. The cinematography embraces a gritty yet vibrant aesthetic that suits the story perfectly, making viewers feel like they stepped right into the late 90s urban scene without needing a huge budget to do it. Practical sets, thoughtful lighting, and well-staged scenes all contribute to an immersive experience that belies the film's modest financial backing. Box office-wise, The Breaks had a bit of a mixed journey. It didn't exactly storm the charts with massive blockbuster opening, but it carved out a respectable niche, particularly resonating with audiences who connected deeply with its cultural themes and characters. The film's release strategy leaned more towards targeted marketing and word-of-mouth buzz rather than a wide, splashy rollout, which meant it built momentum slowly but steadily. This kind of organic growth is often a sign of a movie that finds its audience through genuine connection rather than hype alone. Marketing played an interesting role in the film's financial path. The promotional efforts zeroed in on the film's cultural authenticity and hip-hop roots, aiming to engage fans of the genre and era who crave representation and stories that felt real. This approach helped the film tap into a passionate core audience, though it might have limited its reach among broader demographics, who are sometimes harder to draw into niche cultural stories. Still, the marketing was smart in its focus, leveraging music, style, and nostalgia to create buzz that felt genuine rather than manufactured. Audience reception further influenced the film's box office trajectory. Positive word of mouth from viewers who appreciated the film's humor, heart, and cultural specificity helped sustain interest beyond the opening weeks. Social media chatter, community screenings, and endorsements from key influencers in the hip-hop and urban film scenes played a crucial role in keeping the conversation alive. This grassroots enthusiasm compensated somewhat for the lack of a massive advertising budget, turning the film into a kind of cult favorite among certain circles. While the film didn't break records, it certainly exceeded expectations for a project of its scale. The box office performance reflected a balance between niche appeal and wider accessibility, demonstrating that well-crafted stories rooted in specific cultural experiences can find commercial viability without needing blockbuster budgets. It also proved that authenticity and connection can translate into steady financial success, even if it's not measured in multi-million-dollar opening weekends. In terms of return on investment, the breaks offered solid value. The combination of modest costs and targeted appeal meant the film could be financially sustainable, opening doors for similar projects and reinforcing the idea that there's a market for diverse, culturally rich storytelling. Its earnings, while not astronomical, sent a message that films with heart and cultural depth can carve out profitable spaces in a crowded market. Ultimately, the budget and box office story of the breaks is one of smart strategy, cultural connection, and steady growth. It's a testament to how a well-crafted film, even without the backing of a mega-budget or blockbuster marketing machine, can make a meaningful impact both artistically and financially. The film's journey highlights the importance of understanding your audience, playing to your strengths, and creating a product that resonates on a real, emotional level. Proof that in cinema, sometimes less truly is more. If you're ready to dive into breaks and experience its vibrant world firsthand, you got a few solid options to catch the film, each offering a slightly different vibe depending on how you like to watch movies. First off, if you're the kind of viewer who loves that big screen energy, the communal buzz, the immersive sound, the ability to get lost in the atmosphere surrounded by fellow fans, then hunting down a theatrical screening, if available, is definitely worth it. There's something about seeing the breaks on a large screen that amplifies its gritty urban textures, booming soundtrack, and dynamic performances. The energy of the theater makes those beats hit harder, and those dramatic moments feel bigger, drawing you deeper into Derek's world. For those who prefer the cozy comfort home, streaming platforms have made it super convenient to experience the film without stepping outside. Depending on your region, the breaks might be available on popular services that cater to urban cinema and indie films, making it easy to press play anytime you want. Streaming lets you control the environment, pause for snacks, rewind your favorite scenes, or watch with friends and family for a shared experience without the noise of a public theater. It's an excellent way to catch all the subtle details and layered storytelling that reward close attention. Digital rental and purchase options also come into play, giving you the flexibility to watch on your schedule without worrying about subscriptions or platform availability. Renting the film from a digital storefront means you get access for a limited time, but usually with high-quality video and audio, perfect for a dedicated viewing session. Buying a digital copy lets you revisit the film whenever you want, making it a great choice if you're someone who knows the story will stick with you long after the credits roll. If you want the fullest impact, a few tips can make your viewing even better. For starters, make sure you watch in a setting where you can really focus. This film thrives on its rich cultural context, sharp dialogue, and nuanced performances, so distractions can dull the experience. Using good quality headphones or a sound system can elevate the soundtrack, which is a key player in the film's atmosphere and emotional resonance. The beats, rhythms, and musical cues aren't just background noise. They're storytelling tools that bring the setting and characters to life. Watching with friends or family who appreciate urban culture or coming-of-age stories can also turn a film into a lively shared experience. It's the kind of movie that sparks conversations, laughter, and maybe even some nostalgic debates about the era it portrays. Having company can make the humor hit harder and the emotional moments feel more communal. If you're a fan of physical media and collectibles, keep an eye out for special edition DVDs or Blu-rays that might include bonus features, behind-the-scenes footage, interviews with the cast and crew, and commentary tracks that peel back the layers of the film's making. These extras can deepen your appreciation and understanding of the film's cultural and artistic choices, turning a single viewing into a full-on exploration. For international viewers or those who prefer subtitles, check for versions that include language options to make the story accessible without losing any of its flavor. Authenticity is key to the breaks, and well-done subtitles help maintain the spirit and nuance of the dialogue. In essence, whether you catch the breaks in a buzzing theater, stream it from your couch, rent it digitally for a focused solo watch, or gather friends for a group viewing, there's a way to enjoy the film that suits your style. Each option offers a slightly different way to connect with the story, but no matter how you watch, the film's energy, heart, and cultural richness shine through, making a memorable experience worth seeking out.